Why radical? We build race cars. We race iconic tracks. We set lap records. We build friendships.
3, 4.
We create champions. We make racers.
Ever witnessed someone so fast on track you doubt you could ever be on their level? The mission of Advanced Motorsports is to demonstrate the speed is achievable for everyone. With the expertise of some of the best sim drivers in North America, we are set to release free content on social media and comprehensive guides on our website. For those seeking the ultimate experience, our Advanced Motorsport Institute and personalized coaching sessions are the way to go. No matter your level of experience, we invite you to follow us on our social media to learn to be fast.
Hey there, I'm Nicholas Dubois, co-founder of Advanced Sim Racing. We are a Canadian company. So what we did here today is for a real petrol head. He's really passionate about cars, as you can see behind me. We did a turnkey solution for him based on his needs. We try to gather as much information as we can on our client. And like we did today, we install a D-Box system. We install ultra-wide cube control steering wheel. We try to provide the best quality for your budget. So let's say if you want a budget of 10 grand, we're gonna give you something that's the best for 10 grand. If you want 20 grand, then we always try to stay within your boundaries. We do try to make it as easy as possible. So the client, once we install everything, it's pretty much gonna be a turnkey. So he's gonna press start on his computer, and right after, we'll try to explain everything, how it goes, how it works, and then he's ready to go. Our aluminum is from USA, treated in Canada, cut in Canada. So we do sand all our aluminum piece just to make sure the powder coat sticks to it. And that's one of the reasons why we use powder coat, is to make sure you have the best aluminum finish in the industry. And our quality is beyond what you can get with any other competitors right now. We are really, really passionate about all the gear, all the cockpits, all the sim hardware, and that's why we want to create something that's really gonna reflect our passion into our product. Come visit us at advancedsimracing.com. You can always reach us if you have any questions. You can call us, you can text us, you can go on Facebook, like our page, ask us questions over there, and we'll make sure to answer every questions there is. We are very passionate about what we do, and we try to make it as easier for you to go into the sim racing world, because there's a lot of gear, there's a lot of options, but let us guide you through your process, and let's hope you'll be an Advanced Sim Racing customer.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head to head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series in officially licensed cars engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Live from iRacing's virtual Watkins Glen International Circuit, we say good evening, sim racing fans, and welcome to Podium's continuing coverage of the 2024 BiS Radical Cup Canada Series. We are 6 weeks down and only 2 to go on the road to this Radical Cup Championship. And as always, happy that you're spending your Wednesday night with us for some more BiS action on Podium Esports. As always, myself, Evan Pasoko, joined by Joey Atterbury up in the broadcast booth. Our producer downstairs is Christian Hill. And Joey, it's getting pretty serious now. Watkins Glen tonight, Mosport in 2 weeks' time, and we'll be handing out the hardware. The championship battle close as ever. And what a venue. I feel like we've said this almost every week as we've crisscrossed the United States and Canada, gone overseas and back, but truly running the boot here at the Glen, going to be a real treat tonight.
It'll be a fantastic watch, especially with these radical cars around Watkins Glen, and you kind of nailed it. We only have Watkins Glen and then back to Mosport to really end it up, but we've gone to Coda, we've gone to Sebring, Laguna, Atlanta, all these different racetracks, and here we are at Watkins Glen where the points matter even more than ever. You got to collect them, and it's an incredibly fast racetrack. It's an incredibly aggressive racetrack. We're going to see how everybody's going to handle it today.
And as always, want to start tonight's coverage off by thanking all of our sponsors and partners who make this series and tonight's broadcast possible. And of course, it all starts with Radical Canada East. If you're ready to elevate your racing experience, and you can join the M-Zone Radical Cup Canada, where the thrill of the track meets the camaraderie of a true motorsports community. For more information, reach out to our friend Roger Burgess. That's Robert at radicalcanada.ca to get started. Coverage also brought to you by our friends at FEL Motorsports and M-Zone. M-Zone Auto Care offers premium quality products for the maintenance, care, and cleaning of cars, trucks, boats, and other vehicles and equipment. You can find out more on their website at emzone.ca. Continuing on that list of partners, FEL Motorsports has over 3 decades of experience in executing premium automotive events for top-tier manufacturers across Canada and the United States. You can learn more about the projects that they're working on at felmotorsports.com. And of course, BiS is your home here on Wednesday nights, whether it be the F1600, whether it be this Radical Cup Canada Series, but there is more coming this spring with the introduction of the BiS IndyCar Championship coming soon. If that series interests you and you want to get on the track with us, you can scan the QR code on your screen, join the BiS Discord, and get in the know because IndyCar is coming around the corner. Well, speaking of corners, we talk about how we are almost in the final sector of this championship, if you will, here tonight at Watkins Glen. Now, that championship race will be the only race in which we have a direct comparison, right? We opened the season at Mosport. We saw the likes of Suelio Almeida, Hunter Reeve win in both the Pro and the Am categories there, so we'll have some history to look back on. But the Glen here tonight gets its one and only appearance on the calendar.
It's really interesting, though, because we came off of Road Atlanta, in my opinion, a very similar racetrack with that medium to high speed. So when you look at the familiarity that these drivers are going to face and the racetrack that they're going to go up against, I think they're going to be plenty comfortable at Watkins Glen. However, you got to use the draft. You got to be aggressive in a lot of the passing here at Watkins Glen. It'll be really interesting. And then, like you said, going back to Mosport to close it out, a very, very familiar racetrack for all of these competitors.
And let's talk about this Watkins Glen International Circuit, and it has been a staple on the iRacing service for some time, Joey, but I always think it is important to note that this racetrack received an all-new scan and updates back in 2022, fully updated, rebuilt from the ground up. So it is a pretty new scan of this 3.4-mile, 11-turn circuit. We mentioned the boot is in play here tonight. That brings that sector at the bottom of your screen into play and brings us to the full 3.45-mile layout.
Not only is it beautiful on the screen, but they've got all of the updated exit curbs, the runoff areas. So you're right, you can really take advantage of Watkins Glen in its current layout here, and a couple really big areas to note. Turn 1, probably your best passing opportunity in these radical cars, and then like you were saying, Evan, the inner loop, the outer loop, iconic areas, we will be running the boot. So you got to keep the speed up, and a lot of those banked corners where you really use all that compression and the extra grip in the car. But one thing is for sure about Watkins Glen here, those blue guardrails that you see, they are very close, and I bet you they're going to claim at least one driver tonight.
I feel like I've compared a lot of tracks, Dakota, when it comes to runoffs and space to make mistakes. There are some, to your point, paved runoffs here at Watkins Glen, more so than there were about 10, 15 years ago. But you look through the S's there's a lot of places where this track could be very unforgiving. Tonight's format going to be just as we've seen for the last 6 weeks, but if you're joining us for the first time, we'll walk you through it. Right now, the drivers are in a 20-minute open qualifying session, trying to put down their best lap to set the grid for race number 1. Race 1 will be a 15-minute sprint race, 12 points to the race winner, but then we will head into race number 2, double the race length that goes to 30 minutes, and there will be a required pit stop in that one. That one will have 25 points going to the race winner, so a lion's share of the points in the second of tonight's 2 features.
I like this format because it kind of tests your speed and qualifying your outright pace, and then you got to get the elbows out with the track position in race number 1, and then race number 2, you really got to show that full out, just the full fuel stint, manage the pace over the entire thing. And then the other thing that we have on the racetrack tonight is 2 different classes, the Pro and the Am class. Now, everybody's using the same Radical SR10 cars, and this is how you can really tell the difference. There's a highlighted color basically on the splitter and on the wing. The red is going to show you a color. That should be the Pro. The green is going to be in that Am class, but they are all the same Radical SR10 car.
And we will watch these drivers compete head-to-head over the course of the night. And let's talk about points, both for the Pro and the Am classes, as we enter tonight for round number 7 of 8. It is only a 5-point distinction between Austin Milwain at the top of the Pro Championship and the 5-point gap back to the 1 of Alex Ellis. Now, Joey Haynes, Arnaud Genet, Caven Norris are fighting really amongst themselves for 3rd, 4th, 5th, so on and so forth. It seems like it will come down to a 2-horse race in that championship. And then on the Am side, a bit of a different story, Joey. It seems like that Zach Buchanan has control. He has won 3 feature races so far this season within the Am category, 38 points ahead of Tim Salvatore. It is not a mathematical guarantee, but it certainly seems at this point that if that 40 Buchanan can continue to do what we expect him to do, it should swing in his favor. But there's a reason why we run all the races, and that's because nothing's going to be guaranteed.
Well, and when we look at a championship, it's all about that momentum, and right now Zach Buchanan has it. 38 points, like you were saying, above Tim Salvatore, and then another really big gap back to Diego Zuccarelli. So you got to really look at that number 40 car, at least here at Watkins Glen and the remaining round at Mosport over there. But we also have that team's championship, Evan, and right now Evolve Sim Sport leading the way, just a narrow margin, only 8 points right now above Race Sim Canada there in that second spot, 300 points, and then we've got a little bit of a bigger gap, 56 points back to that 3rd place team of Intrace Britannia iSports.
And of course, Evolve seemingly powered by Milwain and Haynes, 1st and 3rd in the Pro Championship. Race Sim Canada, of course, has Tim Salvatore 2nd in the Am Championship, and then Mark Harris 8th. That is going to be another fun one to watch as this season continues to play on. Worth noting, give it a shout out to Zach Buchanan. He is the only driver who has won at least a race every single week so far this year, whether it be in the sprint or whether it be in the feature. And we talk about what we're racing for. What is the grand prize in 2 weeks' time? Well, it is a trip to the Radical Experience for both the Pro Class Champion and the Am Class Champion. A thrill of a lifetime where they'll get to experience a genuine Radical race car, courtesy of Robert Burgess of Radical Canada. And again, my favorite part is it doesn't go to only the overall champ most points, but both class champions get to get that opportunity.
It's pretty neat, and this is what we all want to see, right? Everybody who races in the sim, they want to go out and race a real race car, and this is exactly what the Radical Experience is. Go out there, start the thing up, go do laps, and hopefully get hooked on it.
And we talk about the sim to reality road and maybe an invert of such, but we've talked about some of the different race winners we've seen so far this season. Well, Suelia Almeida won the first feature race of the season in the pro category back at Motorsport at the start of the year. Well, he is a BiS Radical Cup Canada driver here, but also competing in the Radical Cup North America campaign with Ryspec Racing. Don't think he's going to be on the grid here tonight. We'll talk more about that in a tie-in with the real world as tonight continues. But qualifying is done, so let's go down and take a look at your starting grid for tonight's sprint race. Caven Norris qualifies on pole with a 1:38.554 and will bring us to the green flag, joined by Arnaud Genet. P2 will yield to the left-hand side on the grid. Timothy Salvatore will start from a third, and Joey Haynes will roll from the number 4 spot. Eric Harmon will start in 5th with Michael Broomhead in P6. Diego Zuccarelli starting tonight P7. He'll be on row 4 with the 40 of Zach Buchanan, the big name to watch in the AM Championship. And then back on row number 5, P9 tonight goes to Curtis James, and Nick Horvath rounds out our top 10.
And then on row number 6, in the 11th spot, we got Matthew Howard lined up with Ozzy Milwane to his outside in the 12th place position. On row 7, it'll be John Benwillid in that 08 car, and Richard Swindell's in the 14th spot. On row 8, it'll be Danny Salmon, that's Zippy back there in 15th, and Clovis Girard in 16th. And then 17th, we got Robert Covey, Phil Amaro, Matthew Millman in 19th, Joseph Yang in 20th, and in 21st, we have Jake Cowden.
So let's look top to bottom at our full starting grid for tonight's race. Getting set to get the field rolling for the rolling starts. We can talk more about the specifics of this series as well, Joey. Fixed setup, so equal cars across the board. Again, there is no difference pro to AM class other than the rating of the driver. The cars are the same, the setups are the same. It is an equal playing field. And then rolling starts as well, I think a notable one, and contrary to what we see when we do this on our every other Wednesday nights around with the standing starts in the F1600s here with BiS, rolling starts an important thing to note, and they do get that one fast repair.
And to talk about that rolling start, I think it's okay here in these Radical SR10s because they've got the straight cut gears, the dual clutch systems and whatnot, so it's a little bit more hard to launch these cars, so I'm okay with the rolling start. And then to touch on that fixed setup, you're right, everybody is on the same exact equipment underneath, not only the same car, but the same setup, so it really is up to each driver to go out there and turn those practice laps, understand what the car does in each area of the racetrack here, and essentially get mastered at this specific racetrack with this specific car and come out here and show your stuff. And we do have those two different classes. I think I noted that the colors were a little bit oopsied on my part. It is this yellow-green that is the pro class, and then the red color on the splitter, that is your AM category.
And that's going to be highlighted as well on timing and scoring tonight to assist us in keeping track of the who's who and the where's where. Now, we mentioned the boot is important. It is the traditional road racing circuit used here at Watkins Glen, but that doesn't mean it's used across all series. Some will simply choose to use this outer loop at a turn number 5 and then take a short shoot sprint down to a left-hander turn number 10. Not the circuit we're going to be running tonight. Again, we are using all 3.45 miles of this circuit, so it's a left hand here downhill through the chute to turn 6, and then you head down 6, 7, 8, 9 before we blend it back up onto the straightaway that we were just on.
And these corners here, you're still going downhill, and then you finally hit this compression right there at what's called the toe of the boot. And through a lot of these corners, you notice not only do you have the compression, but you also have a little bit of camber built into the track. And so these drivers can really charge those cars into the corners. And one thing to notice about this next turn, the heel of the boot, turn number 8, there are some bumps on entry, and then you'll notice as well, the drivers are going to use all of that exit curb. It's one of those updated areas that it doesn't necessarily give you an off track if you're way out there, so you're going to see a lot of these drivers just maximize that turn radius.
Yeah, that's why I think it was important for us to note that when iRacing did an art update for this track in 22, it was not simply just an art update, right? And it was a brand new scan to accompany that, to welcome this racetrack on the service into the 2020s and keep it as, I think, one of the top circuits and the most popular one amongst the drivers here on the sim. Of course, the left-hand turn number 10, a lot of runoff here could be used, and it all comes down to the final right-hander, turn number 11, as we look to the front stretch. Pace car going to be off this time. Kevin Norris and Arnaud Genet, teammates lined up on the front row. It's the second to last race week of the season. The sprint race is green at Watkins Glen.
Norris gets a fantastic hole shot headed down towards turn number 1. There we see 2 and 3 wide, a little bit further in the back, but it's Jeannot giving chase.
Pretty clean first time, and now they'll go up through the S's. Right hand, turn number 2, huge elevation gain as they sweep now. Left turn 3, right turn 4, and then down the back straight till they get to a heavy braking zone into the inner loop.
Gotta get on the brakes and jump through this inner loop curb, through the bus stop, whatever you want to call it. It looks like nice and tidy through the top 5. A couple of the stragglers a little bit further back, really bouncing around, and this is too wide. I think this is, I believe, for about 5th or 6th spot.
A couple of cars missed that inner loop, but nobody spins out. Only going to be some time penalties, and there's a spinner, though. Issues with John Benvalid, maybe others. And now more side-by-side down as we're going to come up out of the boot through the heel. Turn number 8 now. Several cars struggling at that part of the racetrack, but for Norris and Genet, the leaders open up a good gap here through the first lap.
I can report it was Matthew Howard in the 072 car. That was the problem, or the car that had the problem going down into the boot for the first time. So here we've got the 77 Norris giving chase. I should say Genet giving chase to Norris to complete here lap number 1.
So one lap down as the 15-minute clock ticks and ticks away. There should be 8 laps to go this time by 15 minutes, equating to 9 laps of our scheduled race distance here at Watkins Glen International. And no changes through the top 4. Norris, Genet, Salvatore Haynes run all where they started. Back there, though, Broomhead, big miss. Off in turn number 1, overdrove the entry. You can see his red, white, and blue 00 car went into that corner, P5. He's going to get out of the S's in 10th before he could finally get back in line.
And if you ask, well, how come he slipped so far back? We see the NASCAR cars jump that turn 1 curb all the time. Well, these radicals, they don't like those curbs nearly as much as the big old stock cars. And if you go charging into turn 1, oftentimes it'll upset the car. You got to get out of the gas before you can keep your foot in it the whole way. And unfortunately, that's exactly what happened to Broomhead. Just lost a whole bunch of track position.
So there's a look at Michael Broomhead with some work to do after that self-inflicted error. Was trying to be aggressive to get up to Joey Haynes. Instead, he loses some positions, and it'll be a tough blow for him. He is only 5 points behind Horvath in the points, 2 ahead in Econombev. So maybe that's one of the reasons why he was aggressive, but it does not work out this time through. And now we look back to Zach Buchanan. We've been talking about the 40 car all night long. Your AM Championship points leader. Right now, not having the run that we're used to seeing out of him. P8 overall. He's only the 4th best in class at the moment.
And that's kind of the most striking thing that I see is you got Timothy Salvatore way up there in 3rd. The car right in front of him is Diego Zuccarelli, and those are the 2 closest in that AM Points Championship. So Zach Buchanan kind of on the back end of the foot right now, needs to figure out at least something. The night is still early, though.
I hope it wasn't an early commentator's curse when I'd referenced that he had gotten at least a category win so far this year, whether it be in the sprint, whether it be in the feature, or in some weeks, both. But he has had a category win every race so far this year, but he's looking to the battle in front of him as a nice move. Zuccarelli outside line to get around Curtis James They will swap P6 and 7. And now does this set up James for the under attack from Buchanan? Looking to the inside, not going to be able to find a spot down the chute into turn number 6. Maybe a missed opportunity there.
And they're just kind of posturing right now to figure out exactly where they want to place the car, poke the nose down the inside, see if anybody moves defensive. And actually right now, Zach Buchanan got a nice run coming up out of turn number 7, so he's going to suck right onto the back of Curtis James. Look down the inside, poke the nose, but doesn't make the lunge. Look at this, though. It moves James just off of the apex. This starts that over-under process.
Looking to the inside, they're going to make contact, and around goes Zach Buchanan. Big issues for the championship leader in the M class. Tried to make the pass in 9, loses the handle, and is going to lose a ton of spots. He slides to P12. I think the good news is the car looks to be okay, but that is not track position you can afford to give up in a 15-minute sprint. That's going to really hurt his chances of getting some points here in race 1.
That's a really tricky spot of the racetrack where he spun. Turn 9, you got a lot of things going on. You're coming up over the crest, plus Buchanan was trying to get down to the inside, so just not the most ideal situation. And unfortunately, now the hill that the number 40 has to climb even bigger.
You can see all the red on that scoring pylon showing how many drivers in this race are in the AM class. Buchanan under fire there. Robert Covey made a quick move on Richard Swindells. Wasn't able to get all the way up to him, but all of those are cars from Zuccarelli all the way on back. Quite a stark difference between the bulk of the AM class and the aforementioned Timothy Salvatore that you were talking about up in 3rd, who continues to be the flag bearer for the cars in red. Despite all that drama, still the top 5 cars run exactly how they started this race, and Caven Norris has led the way thus far in the 774.
And when we look up at the front of this, it really has been Norris and then Genet just right attached to the rear wing there. These two cars have been doing identical pace, and they've actually pulled about 2.5 seconds over Timothy Salvatore in that 3rd place. So this is just these two cars running away with it. They've clearly put in the practice time, and the pace is showing, at least in the sprint race.
You can see these two, Genet, Norris, have been lockstep with each other, pulling out to 3.2 seconds over Salvatore in 3rd. Eric Harmon and Joey Haynes close-ish in the battle for 4 and 5, not missing a ton there. The question is, do these two fight with each other? Genet's got the run. He'll look to the inside, to the inner loop. He gets a lot of curb. Bit of a bobble. Genet keeps it pointed straight. And first lead change on the night put the 123 to the race lead.
We saw that car of Arnaud Genet go bounding over those inner loop curbs, and that's how aggressive you have to be in order to make the time and really go side by side to make the pass there. So nicely executed. You got to always dance on that limit. If you go over them too harshly, you really can upset the car. But now we're going to see what Caven Norris has got, because he's had clean air this entire race. What's he going to do with the car in front of him?
And now you have the opportunity. Do you go back quickly, make that pass again for the top spot, or do you wait around a little bit, see if you can learn from Genet? Caven Norris had led the opening, completed 4 laps. It gave plenty of opportunity for Arnaud to take note of what the line was for the car in front, maybe help them set up the pass. Now let's see if Caven Norris can learn anything from the opposite. They are continuing to pull away. These two are the class of the field to this point, as Caven Norris is trying to lock up what would be a first race win in the sprint this year, but Arnaud Genet trying to run away and prevent that one from happening.
And I look at the lap time from our leader in the 1-2-3 car. It's a 1:38.8, and that is dang close to the fastest lap they've put down. But here we go. Another battle amongst the teammates. Caven Norris going to go to the outside, and Genet just going to follow right back in. So you got to wonder, Evan, is this part of the game plan? Because with these radical cars, they do punch a pretty big hole backwards, right? You can suck up with the draft quite nicely. I wonder if they're just leapfrogging.
We've seen this a couple of times this year, identifying those passing points. And the question is, we've seen drivers, at least in the battles that we've watched, attempt passes, maybe down here in the boot. We saw the notable contact with Zach Buchanan that happened to come in uphill out of the boot for the left-hander, turn number 9. I promise you there have been passes everywhere, but notably amongst the leaders, they keep happening down that back straight and into the inner loop. So the question is, do you almost want to be the second of these two cars in line on the white flag lap? And do you plan on making that pass for the win down through the back stretch and into the inner loop, right? Is that where it happens? Or can you afford to make it a little bit later? Can you maybe not afford to think that aggressively and just try to lead outright? We'll see as this time by, Kevin Norris retakes that top spot. Let's see if Arnaud responds for a third lap consecutively.
And to your point, I think it's just going to come down to, can either one of these two lead cars follow closely enough after this inner loop straightaway section? Because we have seen them just kind of swapping around the lead, doing the leapfrog here. So we're going to see Genet is going to be tucked up behind Norris. Let's see. And yes, he's going to go driver's right. So once again, they are just working together. My question is, does the car that is now second in line? Oh, there's a problem. Genet went over the curbs too hard and into the wall in the inner loop section.
When he made the pass for the lead 2 laps ago, we noted how aggressive he was on those curbs. And what I think hurt him more, Joey, is he made the pass on the inside of Kevin Norris. When Norris took the race lead back last lap, he did it on the outside. It allowed him to use more of that entry to turn into the first braking point. That was not there, so Arnaud had to be a little bit more aggressive, and that thing got all 4 tires off the ground on the curb and backed it into the Armco barrier. Minor damage on the right rear for Genet. You see he's blended back in line just behind Haynes, who takes over the number 4 position. But all that conversation of the Genet and Norris battle gone with that self-inflicted error.
Yeah, so now it really is Kevin Norris just out front, 3.5 seconds. And I'm looking at the steering of Arnaud Genet back here, and I don't think it is quite straight on his car, so he might have gotten away with any heavy damage, but I think he's got a handful, and right now he's got Diego Zuccarelli, that red number 5 car, coming hot in his mirror.
He's coming hot and smells blood in the water. Aggressive dive to the inside in turn number 1, and he's got that one. So Diego Zuccarelli pouncing on the opportunities, but he's not able to shake Genet. Genet's right on the gearbox. Does that self-spin spook Genet, or does he go to make a move here? Behind him, Curtis James, the guy with the speed coming out of the S's. No one, though, going to have positioning into the inner loop to make a dive.
And I'm just kind of hoping that Genet can hang on back here. He definitely has a wounded car. He does not have the top speed, so let's watch Curtis James. I have a feeling that the move is going to come sooner than later. It's just going to happen. When is the door going to open? That Genet car, it looks okay for now, but just when is it going to snap unstable at the wrong moment?
And what drama is left coming to the white flag for 1 to go this next time around. James again with the run. Protecting the inside is going to be Arnaud Genet. Does that pay off, though, as he's going to try to go for the undercut, but it won't work. Curtis James get the spot, swings a little bit wide as they come out of the boot, but that's another spot down. And Genet, you would have to think, suffering somewhat from the big slide through the inner loop. That's 2 spots he's lost in addition to the ones he gave away initially. He's all the way down to P7.
Yeah, such a shame, but I think he's out there collecting the points, doing the best he can to essentially hang on to this finish. And just as I say that, he spins out of the final corner, but we are on our last lap. Kevin Norris has taken the white flag.
He's got the white flag, and it is 1 more trip around for Norris, who is looking for his first checkered flag of the season. Has had some good results, notably really more so in the feature races this year than in the sprints. But Kevin Norris, 5th in the championship, looking to get his first sprint race win of the year, has got about a half a lap more to hang on.
Just got to get through this Really tricky boot section here. Going down the hill, it is so easy to lock up the rear and really lose it on the loose end. And then coming up here to turn number 7, go charging into that corner. And just in the background of the screen, you can see that Eric Harmon has overtaken for that second place over Timothy Salvatore, still giving chase right there in that third.
You watch it on battle for third, potentially in the air. It's about 3.5 seconds back from the leader. I don't know if there's a passing opportunity enough for Salvatore. He's not able to get the positioning with the dive that time into the heel and back up to turn number 9. He closes the gap, but is there going to be an opportunity? They're all chasing Kevin Norris down, though, who started on a pole in this one, went head-to-head with Arnaud Genet, but stayed mistake-free. Kevin Norris going to get his first sprint race win of the season. 12 points to Norris, and behind him, Harmon good enough to hold off the highest finishing AM class driver in Timothy Salvatore, who gets the AM category win as he comes home in third.
This is Zippy Salmon chasing Arnaud Genet, and you gotta feel for that number 123 car. He was out front with his teammate the majority of the race, and just when it rains, it pours on the racetrack. Things really unraveled for him.
When it rains, it pours, and you can see the rest of the field that crossed through the start-finish line. Coming to the end of this one, I thought maybe there was an issue with Haynes, but I think timing and scoring will prove he does stay in that number 4 spot. And it's impressive run, to your point, kind of sneaking through, Joey. We're watching some of the other drivers struggle there. Was Eric Harmon, who stayed up to P5, where he started through the halfway point in this race. Blink your eyes, he's P2.
Yeah, and I completely missed that. Now, I know that Genet kind of fell down through the order, so he got gifted one spot, but don't take away any credit. He definitely drove up, made some passes up there, and I think that I'm going to keep my eye on him, especially here going into this main feature. It's going to be a little bit further back with that top 10 grid invert, but we'll see what kind of elbows out racing he can do.
Well, that is it for the sprint. Let's take a look at your full race results tonight, as we've handed out 12 points to the winners. And it is the first race win in any of the races so far this year for Kevin Norris, who takes home the checkered flag and is the flag bearer for the pro category drivers. Eric Harmon will come home in the number 2 position. That'll give him a nudge of 10. Then Timothy Salvatore gets his second sprint race class win of the year for the drivers in those red AM class cars in P3. Joey Haynes sneaks up to 4th, and Diego Zuccarelli settles for 5th. Curtis James is P6. Michael Broomhead holds on for a P7 after an early slip-up, got some of those spots back. Nick Horvath is behind him in 8th position. The aforementioned Arnaud Genet, who had a decent start, led a lap in this one, self-spin, and then struggled to the end, will have to deal with P9. And then it is a top 10 for Daniel Zippy Salmon.
Then we got Jake Cowden back here in the 11th spot, followed up with Richard Swindells in the 12th place position. Robert Covey finished in 13th. John Benwelid in 14th. That brings Clovis Girard back here in the 15th spot. Phil Amaro, the last car on the lead lap here in 16th. And then Zach Buchanan with those problems a little bit earlier on, 3 laps down. Matthew Mailman, 3 laps down. Ozzie Milwain. Matthew Howard, unfortunately, problems very early on, and Joseph Yang, I believe, did not even start that sprint race.
It's looked top to bottom at all 21 cars on the results sheet, that is, 20 of which were on the racetrack. And that's a look top to bottom at your full race results. So now the driver's going to have a 5-minute session if they choose to use the track time to get warmed up for the feature. We'll talk more about the format for this feature race coming up next, Joey, but want to go back to one thing that I had mentioned on the grid, and it was the sim to reality, or maybe even vice versa conversation, and how that ties in with the drivers in this BiS Radical Cup Canada Series. It was back in the season opening race at Mosport with Suelio Almeida one for the pro class drivers, of course, competing part-time. He is not only, though, just a driver here on the service, but in real life as well, competing in the Radical Cup North America campaign with RiceSpec Racing.
It's pretty cool. Like you were saying, the sim to reality, and we're seeing a lot more of these drivers do this, and it is so cool that Sueli Almeida, who competes right here with us in this Radical, competes now in real life in a Radical of his own too. So using all of that practice from the sim world, now going out and taking those skills to the real racetrack. And actually, from what I've been hearing, his first weekend was actually quite successful so far too.
Yeah, he was one of the latest drivers to make the jump from the service, and he was only about a half a second, I think, off of pole, qualified for his first week out, walked away with some hardware. You can see all the partners on board there, some of those names familiar to our coverage here on the service as well. I think you can tie this in with some of the larger conversations, Joey. Just seeing somebody like a Raja Karuth win a NASCAR, truck series race this past weekend in Las Vegas. Somebody who did not grow up racing from a young age, but got into it early through the sim. Didn't start driving until he was 17, for example. Now finding success in the real world, and fun to see Suelio add his name to that category of drivers. And excited to see with how good the start of his career has been, what is next for him.
We were mentioning some of the other drivers, and I think it is a category now. You said it perfectly, and Sueli Almeida joins that category, and there's been a lot of successful drivers, not just drivers that have made the transition using the sim as practice and then going into the real world, but they have found success on the professional levels of racing. So right now, we're going to watch Sueli Almeida in his future career and see where he can take this thing.
And looking forward to keeping tabs on that. I'm sure we'll get some updates as his successes continue, and would be fun to see as his real-world racing career continues if we can catch him back here on occasion. Saw him race the first 3 weekends of the year, got a race win, got a runner-up in some of the features. Certainly talented, and was able to translate those, good results here with a P3 in some of his first starts out there in the real world as well. So really exciting stuff for him. Getting set, though, to move forward to the feature race. Not only are we going to double the race length and go to a 30-minute counter, however, we are also adding the top 10 invert that could be maybe a saving grace on the night for an Arnaud Genet. Joey, we'll look at the grid in a moment, but he gets flipped. P9 means that he'll be on the front row for this one, so the night is not done.
No, I think that himself and as well as Zippy up there kind of the lucky two right now, because Zippy's going to be starting on that pole position. Remember, he finished in 10th, so I think this is a great opportunity for some of these cars that we know are quite fast, Evan. Now they get that track position out front.
Well, as we're on the grid, let's take a look at your starting lineup, and it all starts with the invert. So as mentioned, Zippy finished, I should say, in the number 10 spot. That means he gets the benefit of the invert and will start from pole, and he is joined by Arnaud Genet. Certainly the sprint race did not go the direction that he wanted, but he gets the almost bulk of this benefit on the invert, and there are more points available in this feature, so that's going to be fun to see what the 123 can do on the front row. Nick Horvath will therefore get flipped to the number 3 position, and he will be joined by Michael Broomhead. Some more opportunities for redemption for the driver of the 00 car as he starts in P4. Curtis James and Diego Zuccarelli, kind of middle of the road. They finished in 6th and 5th respectively. They will start then in 5th and 6th and make up row number 3. Back on row number 4, Joey Haynes will have some work to do from the number 7 spot. He's joined by Timothy Salvatore in P8. And then Eric Harmon was able to drive from 5th to 2nd in the sprint. He's got work to do from 9th, and so does Caven Norris. He has ticked the box and got his first sprint race win of the year. Can he get his first feature race win for the pro class? He has got some work to do for the outside of row 5.
And then in the 10th place position, in the 11th spot, we've got Jake Cowden in that 009. Richard Swindell's in 12th. Robert Covey here in 13th. John Benwelid lined up in 14th. Clovis Girard in 15th. Phil Amaro in 16th, and then I think the biggest name furthest in the back of the pack, Zach Buchanan back here, is going to have to start in the 17th spot. Matthew Mailman in 8th, Ozzie Milwane in 19th, and then the final car is going to be Matthew Howard in 20th.
So let's look top to bottom at your full race results, and as our starting grid, I should say, but those back 10 essentially, to my point, exact same finish sheet of results from the first one. It is worth noting that it is a little bit more than simply, the invert, because it's not an exact one. So 15 minutes gave us 9 laps in the sprint. Well, it is only going to be 17. I know that's kind of splitting hairs to that point, but worth noting that the way the lap times around Watkins Glen work is it is not exactly doubling of the race distance. And one last opportunity for these drivers to stretch it out or hydrate, because we're coming to the green flag this time by.
That's exactly what Zippy was doing, had that Gatorade in there, make sure that he is ready to go. And you see how already focused he is on the top right of your screen. He is starting on that pole position, so I'm sure that all of the nerves right now are hitting Zippy, and it'll be really interesting to see how all of this plays out. And I was going to make a comment, too, that 17 laps versus the 18 laps, with that top 10 grid invert, the longer race, we've got to do that pit stop time, too.
It'll be fun to see if that plays a strategy factor into this one as well. We're going to be looking at some of the fastest cars, at least if the sprint was an indicator, starting in the midfield. How do they handle traffic, something that they may not have had to deal with to this point? I look to Kevin Norris as that example, aside from fighting with Arnaud Genet. He was about 3-4 seconds ahead of everybody else. He's going to be in the hornet's nest. How does he handle that pressure? And again, do we see somebody like a Zippy who started 15th in the sprint, got all the way to 10th, worked hard, knowing that that spot would get the benefit of the invert? Do we see a Salmon, a Genet, a Horvath, a Broomhead? Do some of those names take advantage of this invert? And can they not only just start up front, but can they defend that track position, have top 5, top 10 speed, and turn this into a good night for them on the penultimate race week of the season? Pace car going to be in this time. It's Daniel Salmon on the right-hand side of the front row, P1. And Arnaud Genet led a lap in the sprint, but spun. He's got a good crack at it here on the outside in second. Let's go racing at Watkins Glen.
Zippy with a fantastic hole shot leads the entire field down into turn number 1, 3 wide, a little bit further back. Is that car going to keep it on the racetrack? I believe they all make it through turn 1, up the S's for the first time.
That was Kevin Norris looking to get the big dive into one after winning the sprint. Took a bit of a too big swing at it. Nearly drove himself into the wall. He's back on track, but he loses some spots. He'll go to the outside, side by side. Joey Haynes not able to get positioned. He lifts. They all want to be single file through the inner loop.
And it stacked up quite a bit right behind our race leader, Zippy. And then you saw Diego Zuccarelli looking around to the outside. A lot of these drivers just trying to search for that clean air while everybody is all bunched up.
And no separation really amongst your top cars early in this one. A couple of drivers looking to make a move, including up front for the race lead. Salmon going to get overtaken by Arnaud Genet. Put the 1, 2, 3 to the number 1 spot. Any other moves this time? It's such a short run, though. In between turns 7 and 8 to the heel. A peak for Salmon. Not going to make the dive, though. And Genet now trying to run away up top. Salmon's keeping him honest, though. Battle for third behind. Side by side at P6 is Joey Haynes going to still fend off Kevin Norris, who is feverishly trying to make a move every chance he gets.
I know it's only lap 1, but I'm looking. We've got a train of 16 cars, 1st through 16th. Each one of them separated by less than a second right now. So a fantastic clean first lap here on the main race. Zippy Salmon still in second place, giving chase to Arnaud Genet up front. And there's a little bit of a more problem. I believe that was Kevin Norris turned around at turn 1.
So Caven Norris, as the troubles, is not looking to repeat with that spin. He gets the car going again, but it drops him all the way to 18th spot. Meanwhile, up front, battle is on. Salmon holds off Broomhead, who tried to get to his outside into the bus stop. Couldn't do it, and then I think despite the aggression, we are not yet, Joey, at too wide into the bus stop levels of aggression. They look, if they can't get the spot, they lift. Broomhead's going to try to set it up again. He sits in third. Horvath is fourth. Haynes, the last car, top 5.
Zippy's got to be feeling the pressure here. You see him really go defensive right in the middle of the racetrack, forcing Broomhead to look around the long way. So that's never going to work, but as long as he gets the momentum, which he does, it provides him the next opportunity down here to turn 8 and side by side for second. Broomhead really deep on the brakes, but well defended from Zippy.
And Broomhead was almost all the way clear, but Zippy kept a nose to the inside. He was very definitive in choosing to protect it to the inside. But what this is doing, though, is Zippy's got every right to be aggressive, defend his spot. But what it's doing is it's holding up Broomhead, it's holding up Horvath, and that means that Arnaud Genet has clocked out. He is almost 2 seconds in front, and for every lap that the battle for second continues, that gap is going to grow, and a mistake that time. Horvath locks up the brakes after Broomhead looked to the inside as Zippy had to check up. Horvath nearly got into the back of him, and he throws away a few spots.
And turn 1 is steeply downhill, but this is the side-by-side, so second place here is being argued over. Zippy is on the inside. He's got the track position. Oh, a little bit of a door rub with Broomhead, and now we got contact. They're both going to go spinning through the inner loop.
It was a matter of time. More drivers will scatter to avoid it. I think that was Curtis James who had to go through the grass to avoid it, and I will put my foot in my mouth after I had said no more than a lap ago, Joey. We were aggressive, but not too wide into the bus stop aggressive. And then immediately after that, I think that was at the point where Broomhead's almost all the way clear. I know Zippy's got the inside position still, but I think at that point it's Broomhead's spot, and they make contact, and it's going to cost them both a ton of time. Most impressive was how close to me Zuccarelli and Haynes were to getting involved in that wreck, but they slip right on through, and all of a sudden they're P3 and 4.
I think there was about 3 or 4 cars that almost got collected there. You see the contact, and then you see the evasive maneuver from Zuccarelli just barely sneaking around the outside. I believe that might have been Horvath as well. There was 3, 4, maybe even 5 cars that just had to go full defensive, and I agree with you. I think that Broomhead was well far enough forward to at least earn a lane on the racetrack, and I don't think you could get much closer around the outside for that number 5 car in avoidance.
And the key is when you take that entrance into the bus stop, that line is not a line that will naturally give either somebody to your left or to your right an opportunity to stay there. Both drivers would need to take a completely different lane through there to work it side by side. I don't think either of them were compromising and willing to do so. But again, in the end, it's the car behind that makes contact, and I think the car in front has the right to that track position. Big miss that time on the bus stop for Nick Horvath. I don't know if he missed the braking point or got caught up looking in the mirror, but he had gone around Buchanan. That was a battle for position, and then just did not brake on his marker at all.
And we saw Nick Horvath go smoking through turn 1 a little bit earlier in the race, so some of these drivers may be a little bit too aggressive on the brake pedal. And Watkins Glen, I know that it's incredibly fast and you got to carry the momentum, but you look at the racetrack and the track map, it's all in the corner exit. That's where you gain your speed. If you go flying in on entry with your hair on fire, you're going to find yourself going the wrong way quite often.
So Horvath will slip down to P12. That mistake costs him 4 spots after he was looking to make a move for P8, ends up falling to P12, and I don't know if it's going to deter him. I feel like Nick Horvath is going to give it 110% every single lap, and he's got passing opportunities up the road, looking at Robert Covey and Daniel Salmon, who after the contact in the bus stop has slipped and fallen outside of the top 10, is about 10 seconds off of the leaders. There's a couple of pairs here and there, but in terms of the battle for the lead, we've got a long way to go, still 12 laps left on the board, but it feels like to me the damage has been done, right? Arnaud Genet, the P9, not reflective of his speed in that sprint race. He was a race-winning, contending car that simply just had a mistake. As more fighting into the bus stop, we'll see Covey getting ahead of Salmon. That'll drop Daniel for the moment back another one. We'll see if he gives it back up. But Genet really benefited from the invert. I don't think it's a P9 car that is going to have to try to limp home. I think Arnaud Genet can sprint home with that gap. And again, that's 12 seconds ahead of these cars who have not had a great night. Horvath trying outside, inside on Zip, but can't find an opening.
Right now, Horvath is definitely faster than Zippy Salmon, and it's just going to be a matter of time until he gets the right run. I don't think he's quite close enough here. He's been poking the nose often, and Zippy's been all sorts of defensive, and there's a big wiggle out of Salmon in that 6.59, so Horvath going to stay aggressive, try to keep on it, and you were mentioning that Horvath is pretty much going to send it from here on out, and I look right up the road. I think he needs to. The further he gets held up by this car right in front of him, the further and further those other cars are just kind of slipping away, and there's a big train of them just up the road, and knowing Nick Horvath's pace, if he can dispatch of Zippy, he should be able to chase him down.
You would think as a look to the inside, not going to come to fruition for Horvath that time. And I think what we've learned from Zippy is kind of mastered the art of just kind of putting that car in the way, right? Middle of the road, in the preferred lane. It's going to be tough here, though. Horvath tucks back in line to get one last sniff of draft. He might have it twofold. Do they go three wide? No, the block late by Covey shuts the outside off, and Salmon inside makes the pass. Good stuff there. Thought we were going to get three or best, but Covey moved over, blocked Horvath, and it opened up the door for Salmon to get another one back.
I think what I learned out of all of that battling right there is, did you see how big and how powerful that slipstream really was? Because the battle was between Horvath and Zippy coming up the S's, but then all of a sudden that draft pulled him right up to Covey and pulled him right past him going into the inner loop. So if we're watching for any battles later on throughout the race, we have to keep in mind how powerful that toe really is.
So this three-way battle going on is some of the best and closest stuff on track anywhere. Make it a four-car battle because Clovis Girard really wants to join. You can see that white 27 car watching from the wings. Can he join the action as they fight for 10, 11, 12, and 13? As Salmon's got the spot that everybody else wants at the moment. Maybe a defensive line for Covey there, sealing off the inside. No move from Horvath, and Horvath will try to reset. Started this race in third, not having the feature that he thought he'd be having.
And remember, he got boxed in last time, and this is a really aggressive move. He just wasn't up alongside, and he mistimed that draft there, so now he's going to have to sit back and watch Covey go up there and try to get around Zippy one more time going into the inner loop. Horvath is just going to simply miss out again.
Thought for a split second that he was going to go for the two furners. A mistake on the exit for Covey. Over drove it off the corner. Salmon going to try to go to the outside through the outer loop. Not going to be able to make it stick. Looks to the outside as they head down the chute. Left hand, turn number 6. But alas, it doesn't happen. Horvath lost time in the bus stop. He, at least for a moment, thought about trying to double up on the move. Thought better of it, tucked back in line. First moment of hesitancy I think we've seen from the 382. I think it was also the correct call. That probably would have ended in tears for all of them if he had tried to make that dive. And if Covey and Salmon continue to fight with each other, what can you do if you're Nick Horvath? Do you find an opening where they're so distracted with one another you can get the 2-for-1 special, make the pass onto both of them at once? Because if not, they're not looking at you, and that's a dangerous spot to be in, to have two cars side by side focused on where each other are but not really where you are. can always lead to putting yourself in a compromising position.
I think when we talk about this specific battle and Nick Horvath, he's got to time the move properly. Zippy's going to go and be aggressive, go around the outside of turn number 1 here. So Nick Horvath has to look in front of him, set this up through the S's, and time it properly going into the inner loop. The last 2 or 3 laps, he has just kind of balked at the opportunity.
And now Horvath has got a front row seat. Here's decision time to the outside. A big block there, though. Contact from behind. Robert Covey takes a side swipe. Salmon stays in the middle. And in the end, Nick Horvath does get those spots.
But albeit 5.5 seconds, almost 6 seconds behind 6th place now. So Nick Horvath is very happy he's gone around that handful of cars, but he has got a big, big mountain to climb.
Yeah, it's the problem now is intervals, right? If he wants to get up to the next man up, that's a 5-second gap and a spin on the exit. As Robert Covey this time, the man with problems, he'll loop the car back around. He's got such a gap that Zuccarelli not threatening until he gets back up to speed. So Covey will lose some spots. And to finish that note, in terms of what's going to happen with Horvath, he's won this battle for now, but you're not going to get any other cars. For the most part, they're 5 seconds up the road till you get to the next battle. The damage has been done in terms of the time taken to make the pass and to get that position. Pit stops, though, have started to kick off. Jake Cowden's been down to pit road. Some other drivers chatting over the radio. Michael Broomhead has also gotten his service. So is Eric Harmon. So drivers continue to come down to the pit lane. None of the top runners, but remember, they have that required pit stop, and we are almost right at the halfway point. Would be a good time to do it.
You took the words right out of my mouth, and here's the 72 of Robert Covey coming down pit road. And the one that came down the earliest, the furthest forward, I believe, was that number 5 car of Diego Zuccarelli. So I've got my eye on him to kind of see where he cycles back out as the rest of this field comes down pit road. They're going to take that gas, maybe take the tires, but there's going to be a few strategies here. We're halfway through the race. This is the early pitters. You can still stretch it to the other side of halfway, so it'll just kind of have to play out for a little while.
Yeah, and there needs to be a point in the race where you can maybe take a deep breath, stretch your legs, and try to log some laps. The sprint races at 15 minutes in length do not present the opportunity to do that. Here in this feature at a half an hour in length, it does. It has been go, 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 block, attack, defend, so much for the cars in the midfield that have been followed through much of this that they haven't really had that opportunity to do so, and that may continue as some of these battles continue to rage on. But for Genet up front, he's had an opportunity to, take a deep breath. The battle for third and fourth between Salvatore and James that we watch now is a close one, but they're not all over each other yet at this junction. It's probably one of the closer duos on the racetrack. 5th and 6th behind them. Howard and Benvalid are pretty close to one another, but again, nobody breathing down each other's neck as more cars in. It's Horvath and Swindells.
And I find it that interesting, that talking point of how the race has kind of developed so far, Evan. And you're right, there's been a lot of elbows out, a lot of shuffling back and forth as we watch more cars come down. And now that they are coming down pit road, you kind of have to shift that brain focus, right? You've been in battle mode this entire time. You have to get it slowed down to pit road speed limit. You have to stop in your box. You have to get out of pit road nicely and not overcharge the first couple corners and get everything back up to temperature. So we have seen kind of maybe a type 1 race, but now the drivers, they're having to switch their brain and think about something else and execute it properly.
It's a good onboard perspective there with John Benvalid, who says that the invert is not going to hold him down. He started 14th, did not get the benefit of anything, and has driven his way through the field to pass 8 cars. He's one of the biggest movers tonight, second only to the man that he looks to right in front of him, and that's Matthew Howard, who finished dead last in the Sprint P20 and has driven his way to 5th. Now again, these cars have yet to pit, some others have, so we'll watch these numbers, and there's the indicator on the scoring pylon that Arnaud Genet will pit from the race lead. He still leads at the stripe that time. No response from Haynes or Salvatore.
This car that we're riding on board with of Matthew Howard, not only is he the fastest car, or I should say the biggest mover, but he's one of the fastest cars on the racetrack. This is Genet stopping in his pits box, did exactly what he needed to do. Don't beat yourself out there on the racetrack, and already back out onto the road.
And now it seems like the window is open. Everybody come into pit road. It is wholesale service here at Watkins Glen. The 27 car, quick in and out. It's a good stint there for Clovis Girard. And now it's almost easier to count the cars who haven't pitted because it's really just those in the top 4. We're looking for Salvatore, Haynes, James, and Howard to come down pit road to put a button on this strategy. Everybody else has already come down and in. Arnaud Genet is your net leader, lead car of those who have pitted. You can see him 5th on your leaderboard right now, some 20 seconds back. That's the pit delta time and then some. He's about 4 seconds ahead of Zuccarelli, who may cycle through to P2. But again, let's see what Haynes and Salvatore can do. And if they slide in line, it sounds like, Joey, they are coming this time.
See here, coming through the final turn, and there they are below the yellow line. So 2 of these 3 lead cars down pit road, already on that pit lane speed limiter. So you get the headlights flashing down to 40 miles an hour. And I've been saying it the last few laps, do not beat yourself. Stop in the spot that you need to. Don't slide over it. You've done all the hard work on the racetrack. Don't let it go slipping through your fingers on something so simple.
So drivers are in. It's going to be about 35 to 40 seconds on the pit lane to complete your service, but only 8 to 10 or so in the box. And as those 3 cars cycle out, Curtis James gets an opportunity to be credited with a lap led and stands as the sole car who is yet to come down pit road for service. But look at Genet on your leaderboard. Salvatore does slide ahead of Zuccarelli. That's going to be a good battle for what may end up being 2nd overall in this race, but nobody able to end up near Genet. And now Zuccarelli leapfrogging Salvatore on that leaderboard. So using the fresh tires to get back into that number 2 spot. Again, what will become P2. Just waiting on Curtis James to pit before we can put a bow on this one. But it seems like Genet, mission accomplished on the pit cycle.
This is a battle a little bit further back. I believe this is Michael Broomhead currently chasing down Robert Covey. Now, Broomhead is in that all-blue car, while Covey is more in the white and blue car on the inside of the racetrack here. So, apparently, we've seen 2 wide into the bus stop. But Michael Broomhead says, you know what? I'm going to be a little bit more patient. We've still got 6 laps to go. I'm going to see how this one plays out. Remember, Broomhead's had quite a few extracurricular activities out there. I think he's trying to make it to the checkered flag here.
And look at Broomhead. You saw what he was thinking of there. The onboard perspective kind of gives you a glimpse into the mind. He was looking for the undercut. It's going to happen later on in the lap as they head back down through the boot. That's the toe in turn 7. Uphill, he's got the run. Looks left. Just enough room for race car width along the left-hand side. Is he going to get clear, though, before they get to the heel? No. And diving back down on the inside is Robert Covey. Defensive move as the battle rages on for P11.
This is just a fantastic fight. And remember, Covey, he had his fight on earlier in the sprint race, too. So just a fantastic night in terms of the battles for that number 72. And he is just giving fits to Michael Broomhead behind. You see Broomhead trying the high line, trying the low line, just trying to go over, under, set up Covey wherever he can. But just the number 72 doing a great job putting the car exactly where he needs to go. But I think actually, here we go, Evan. The run's going to come into the inner loop. Covey, a poor exit out of 1. Broomhead's going to carry the momentum up the S's.
And Broom has got the run, and here's a big swing, and it's going to be the long way around the exit of the S's for 4. It stunts a little bit of that momentum that he had, just enough for Covey to stay there, but it's a high-speed game of chicken, and the one to bail is Broomhead. He bails late. Covey had no intention of yielding, and that bravery holds his spot, and Broomhead, the one who hit the eject button.
Ooh, I'm sure that he's just happy to stay on the track after that one. Had a big lockup, like you said, after Covey just did not want to give up the spot. But looking at the data, I know that we've still got probably, call it 4.5 laps left remaining. I think that Broomhead will probably be able to get back up there and at least have another charge at it.
And from one battle right into the next one, as look at this gag of the cars coming off of turn 1. This is for second place on back. Salvatore, the lead car, kind of the maroon red number 91 machine. Zuccarelli second in line. The bright green 99 Haynes is 4th. James watching from 5th. Here comes Haynes to the outside. It's another game of chicken, and once more the car on the outside forced to bail.
And sometimes, as long as you're up alongside, Evan, I actually think the outside is the preferred lane going into the bus stop there. Remember, we were talking about how if you're pinched down to the inside, you got to go jumping over that first curb. It can really upset these radicals. So I think these cars on the outside, maybe they feel like they're not far enough alongside the car to really outbrake them there into the inner loop. However, we've seen plenty of 2 wide end and tiers so far with 4 cars and the laps counting down. I wonder if any of those moves are still yet to happen.
Still time left. Going to be 3 laps to go this time around. For your race leader, Arnaud Genet, who is putting a whooping on the field and has been in control almost since the get-go, leading 10 of the 13 completed laps thus far. He will see 3 to go this time by. The gap has closed a little bit. Look at Salvatore on the leaderboard. First time we've seen that gap sub 3 seconds since the opening laps of this race. That could just simply be, I think, Joey Genet knowing that he's got a big gap. Time's running out. No reason for the 123 to try to clock purple sectors and be super aggressive and risk wrecking that race car at this point. I think he's just trying to make sure he takes care of that 123 right now.
I think that's the logical thing to do, especially after he had the kind of that self-inflicted mistake in the sprint race. So I'm sure that's in the back of his mind, probably just taking it at 9/10 instead of 10/10. And he's got a hungry pack of coyotes right behind him. And if they keep fighting, he's going to have that buffer. He doesn't necessarily have to push it at 10/10 if these 4 cars are fighting amongst themselves.
And you wonder, where's the move going to come from in this group? Curtis James has now latched on to the tail end as the number 4 car in this battle. Haynes into 4th, looked to make a move on Zuccarelli. It did not happen. There's another car up the road from them, that being your race leader today. Now 3 seconds in front again, just tantalizingly out of reach. So close. Not close enough, though, to make it a battle. Going to be 2 laps to go this next time by. And for all the 2-3 car gaggles we've seen tonight, maybe one of the most well-behaved thus far. I've got a feeling these moves need to be coming soon. You're running out of time.
You had to say it, Evan. You had to say it. No, I like stirring the pot, too. And I think that it's all going to come compressing up here, especially with Curtis James. He has just been really on the back of Joey Haynes, and there goes Haynes once again a little bit wide in turn number 1, so it might not be up here for 2nd and 3rd. It might actually be more for that 4th place position. I'd keep my eye on this rear car, this number 87. In fact, here we go. He's got the run on Haynes. He's going to opt to bump draft Joey Haynes. He's not going to say, I want the position. Let's go catch him and make a better spot.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a big brain move or if he'll regret it later. Could have tried to make the pass on Haynes, but instead used Haynes to close both of them in to the 2 spots in front. It's pretty clear that Curtis James, not to be confused with Joey Haynes in front of him, has bigger things on his mind than simply the pass for 4th. He knows that P2 is only about a half second up the road, and he wants an opportunity to get all 3 spots in front of him.
Here he comes one more time. Curtis James with a really good run out of turn number 7. Can he poke the nose down in here? No, the brake zone's not quite big enough, but the further that Joey Haynes falls off the back of that number 5, it just kind of puts him in the clutches of Curtis James, literally underneath his rear wing.
He is tucked up behind. Now what happens? 2 opportunities. No move that time for James. Zuccarelli thought maybe he had a look on Salvatore. No move there either. Up front, Arnaud Genet gonna take the white flag. 1 lap to go at Watkins Glen. The battle of 4 has turned into 2 sets of 2, fighting for 2nd and fighting for 4th.
It's all going to come down to this corner exit here. Let's see who gets the best run. It's Timothy Salvatore breaking the air, and Diego Zuccarelli already all over the back. He's going to move drivers left, but keep an eye. We got 2 more coming.
Here they come, 3 wide down the back straightaway. It's a big move for Joey Haynes. Side by side behind Salvatore. The advantage, Zuccarelli, James. Somehow those 4 make it through.
I think that they were all kind of hiding those last few cars for that final lap, and Joey Haynes just rocketed by him in the draft, and now we got Diego Zuccarelli sliding out to the outside of the racetrack. Curtis James getting knocked off with an elbow.
He's going to get pushed out of the way. These 4 are going to fight all the way to the end. What does Zuccarelli have? Not going to be able to catch in front, but I think he's safe from an attack. James too far behind him. The battle for 2nd spot, maybe the only one left. Joey Haynes was back and forth at the stripe. Made that 3 wide pass to get the 2nd. Is he going to be able to hang on into the final corners as Salvatore still looking for an opening, as up front Arnaud Genet is going to lock this one down, bouncing back from a poor result in the sprint to win the feature at Watkins Glen, and behind him Haynes slithering and breaking the draft to hang on to 2nd ahead of Timothy Salvatore, who finishes in 3rd.
The redemption drive from this driver right here. Arnaud Genet had everything fall apart in the sprint race, fell way down the order, got the track position due to that top 10 grid invert, started on the front row and put up the deuces, said peace out everybody else. It was game over.
And what a night for Salvatore. I know Haynes gets that pass on him late. It's not what he wanted to have happen, but Salvatore is having really a couple of good weeks here as of late, and is trying to do his best to bounce back. Into the story's been Buchanan in terms of this championship, but Tim Salvatore winning both the sprint and the feature for the drivers in the AM class is at least a good final stand when we talk about how this championship battle is starting to round down to a close.
Well, I think we should be getting our final results up on the screen here. And Evan, I gotta say, I love calling these radicals. I love coming every single time to Watkins Glen, and it did not disappoint. And I got to say that the 2 cars painted similarly ended in the same spot at the end of the day.
Never thought that I'd see a race where the race winner had an average advantage of 3.5 seconds consistently, still deliver. But we had battles back in 11th, the battle from 2nd on back to the end. Always a fun time with the drivers in this BIS Radical Cup Canada Series. Let's take a look at your full race results for tonight's feature race now with only 1 week left to go on the season. Arnaud Genet gets race win number 1 in the pro category. Big moment for the driver of the 123, and Joey Haynes also with one of his best results, coming home in second. Again, those drivers in yellow in the pro category. That means that it was Timothy Salvatore who wins out for the AM. It's going to be third in class, or third overall, I should say, winner in class for him, ahead of Zuccarelli and James, who round out your top 5. We talked extensively about those drivers to the home stretch. Bit of a quieter night for some of these other ones. Matthew Howard, that big charge from 20th to 6th. Ben Village charge from 14th to 7th. Big points pickups for those drivers. And how about Daniel Salmon? Not the start of the race that he wanted after getting the benefit of the invert, but fights back and gets a top 10 out of it. He comes home in 8th, ahead of Clovis Gerard P9 and Richard Swindells in 10th.
Then brings up Mike Broomhead back here in 11th. Eric Harmon in 12th. Nick Horvath is going to finish in the 13th place position. Phil Amaro in 14th. Caven Norris back here in 15th. One of the cars one lap down. Robert Covey in 16th. Matthew Mailman several laps down back here in 17th. And then that number 40 car, just a nightmare day in upstate New York for Zach Buchanan. Started off so good with the decent qualifying, but just couldn't race his way forward. Ozzie Milway 19th. Jake Cowden 20th. It's going to round out the field.
And that's a look top to bottom at your full race results tonight from Watkins Glen. Well, as we transition to post-race coverage from the Watkins Glen International, let's see if we can get a word maybe first with our race winner in the feature, because Arnaud Genet takes home race win number 1 for him on the season. It could not have happened at a better time. Had some other good results throughout the season, scored points pretty on a consistent basis. Only the sprint race at Donington was the only time where he did not walk away in the point share, but is able to do so on a consistent basis. And just waiting on our ability to get him on the radio before we can talk with the driver of the number 123 machine. And let's see if we've got him now. Or no, you got a copy?
Hey guys.
Hey. Well, first off, congratulations. Just talking about how it's been a pretty consistent year for you in terms of being in the points almost every time out. But I know the sprint race was an opportunity. It did not end the way that you wanted, but you took advantage of the invert and you put down, clearly, I think, your best all-around performance this season.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, Kevin and I, my teammate, we put some time in the sim this week. It definitely paid off. But yeah, maybe a lack of communication on my end when it comes to in the feature, not in the feature race, but in the heat race, when I attacked the curbing on the inside of the bus stop, and the car didn't react as normal or as normally it would. So that's where I totally lost it there. So congrats to my teammate to get it done. And that kind of set me up in a good position for the feature race. Unfortunately, lose some points in the heat, but then you can make up for some in the feature. And I'm pretty happy that the guys were battling back there, so that I had my my mind clear and my mirrors clear for to complete this race.
We were kind of wondering, that your advantage, and through the pit stop, that's just another opportunity to make a mistake. You were holding a gap of about 3 seconds through the second half of the race. That's kind of just far enough ahead to be comfortable, assuming nothing goes wrong, but also, they're still within striking distance if you put any tire wrong. How did you change your approach in the second half of the race? Did you do anything to be a little bit more conservative to make sure you didn't open the door for them, or was maybe the key just not changing anything?
Well, at first, I think before the pit cycle, I had about 4 seconds of a gap between me and P2. I decided to put a liter more of fuel just to be safe and not to have to worry about it during the rest of the race, and have to focus on, and so focusing more on the road ahead. There was like 5 laps after the pit stop. I definitely had some stressed out moments just before entering the bus stop. It kind of flashbacks of the race before, and yeah, so I took it a bit more careful for at least for that part of the track, which I had some problems in the past race, as I mentioned. But yeah, for the rest, I mean, there was clear road up front, no traffic really, nothing to bother me. So yeah, it was a clean race, but I'm good for a shower now, I think.
Yeah, that's fair. You mentioned you and Caven put in a lot of practice this week. This being, of course, your first checkered flag at a race win on the year. Do you attribute that to the extra time that you guys put in together, or is there something about Watkins Glen that you enjoy so much?
Well, of course, I like the track. I mean, we've run there for I don't know how many seasons in different cars, so pretty a good track. But yeah, putting more time with my teammate this week definitely help. We tried a lot of things, especially in the qualification run. So how to let the other one pass to maximize draft. Maybe take some 1x at some point to on turn one to optimize again your exit speed. So we did a lot of analysis this week. That's why I think we wrapped up the P1 and 2 during qualification. Unfortunately, the execution wasn't so good on the heat. And bad luck for my teammate on the feature. But yeah, all in all, I mean, it's probably due to teamwork and having good fun there and testing a lot of things.
Well, we'll let you get to the shower and the celebration, but we appreciate the time here post race. Again, congratulations on the win.
All right, thank you very much, guys. See you in a couple of weeks.
That's your race winner tonight from Watkins Glen is Arnaud Genet, saved the best for last. He gets his first win of the year here in round number 7. Joey Haynes was second in tonight's feature race, so why not just continue down that direction, Joey? And I'll give you your brethren in Joey Haynes. Let you chat with our runner-up finisher.
I'm watching.
It's a fantastic first name, Joey Haynes over here. Congratulations on the second place finish here in the feature. How did it feel for you?
Oh, that was incredible. I like your name too, by the way, Joey. It's a really top-notch name.
I mean, I feel like we could go back and forth on this great name, but let's talk about the racing that we had on the track. And how was it for you out there today? And not necessarily the same in the sprint as it was in the main feature, but you got to feel good after a good points haul.
Yeah, absolutely. The sprint, the car didn't really feel that great, and I kind of adjusted with the brake bias a bit heading into the feature, and that seemed to help out a little bit. I didn't feel like I necessarily had the best pace by myself, but when you pick up the draft, you can really get in there and really mix it up. And full credit to Diego. He did a great undercut on us, and he actually hopped ahead of Tim and I kind of in the pit stop cycle, and then it was just a good battle with the four of us to the end.
I have a question about the draft, and were you guys just kind of hanging out in that position that you wanted to be for that last lap? Because I saw how powerful it was, and it seemed like you just rocketed around 2 cars.
I want to say that was 100% planned, but no, like I just got really lucky the way everything kind of played out. I got way closer to Tim and Diego on the final lap there, and next thing I knew, I just had an absolute torture of a run up the inside, and I had to take it.
It worked out for you. So congratulations on an awesome move. Probably, in my opinion, the move of the race, definitely at the end of it. And I got to ask you, anybody that you want to give a shout out to while we got you here?
Absolutely. My wife, first and foremost, and of course, everyone from Evolve who supports us and gets us through this. I know Ozzy didn't have a great race tonight, so hopefully he'll rebound next time. Joe's Pokestop, our sponsor, as well as TNT Racing, and of course, Podium Esports for putting on a great broadcast. And I can't forget Mike, the host of the series as well, and Radical, because everything's just been awesome. It's been a really great time this season.
Well, that was the driver with the best name, Joey Haynes, driving the number 99, finishing second in the main feature race here tonight at Watkins Glen.
Let's continue things down to our third place finisher in tonight's feature, but that also means he is top in class for the drivers in the AM Championship, and that's Tim Salvatore, who's with us now. And Tim, congratulations on a good result for you in this one. First time this season for you that you're the highest finisher at both the sprint and the feature race for the drivers in the AM Championship. So congratulations.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I mean, it's really nice to bounce back after the last, couple down rounds and everything. So to be back, actually getting an interview is pretty nice, and have a good results also really good.
A staple of consistency tonight. You started third in the sprint, you finished third. And if it wasn't for the invert, it might have been that again, but you finished third in the features. So it seemed like you guys were pretty comfortable and confident that you had top 3 speed. Just tell us about the night and how things came together for you in the 91 car to kind of get back to form, as you say.
Yeah, I mean, well, first of all, I love Watkins. It's a great track. It races incredibly, and it's just really fun to do laps around there. So like on iRacing, it's probably one of my personal best tracks. So that really helps. I definitely had the speed. I mean, honestly, I think if a few things kind of few bounces went my way there, I think an overall win was probably on the cards. But completely honestly, like I'm super happy with the result that I got. And really all that matters to me is those AM results. So those pro guys can go do whatever they want to do and finish in front of me, but getting the AM results is at the end of the day is all that matters.
And you talk about, the championship for you in this AM category and some of the off weeks maybe that you've had not getting the results that you were looking for recently. Entered tonight 38 points behind Zach Buchanan in this championship. Do you allow yourself to look at the results tonight? He gets a 17th and an 18th place finish. Do you allow yourself to think of what that number is going to be? How aware of were you during the race in terms of where he was, or was the key for you to find success tonight to just kind of block that out and just go for the race result and let the points fall where they may?
I think tonight was the first night in a while where I actually wasn't thinking about it. Obviously, it's still in the back of your mind, but I mean, my downfall has been when I was thinking about it, and I was checking those standings way too often and getting way too far ahead of myself, and that really hurt my results and hurt my my frame of mind and everything. So I mean, obviously you're gonna think about it. I'm trying to do my best to not think about it. But human behavior is what it is. So yeah, I mean, that's the biggest non-answer you'll get from me tonight.
Well, it's all fair. And I'll tell you what, in 2 weeks' time, we'll close out this championship with a trip back to Sport, the only track that makes a double date on this calendar. What is the outlook going into that one, knowing that you have a direct apples to apples comparison in terms of, what happened there in the season opener? It's been a while since we raced there in November. So are there any takeaways that you can have that feels like you can put yourself in a good position to maybe make some noise?
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone in this series really loves Mosport. We're all Canadian. It's pretty much everyone's home track, um, and everything. And we all do a lot of laps around there, so everyone's going to be quick. I think what I have to do is just go there, have fun, um, try my best not to think about anything, and just do the best as I can. And whatever happens, happens. I think I'm pretty far back, so there's not a huge hope, but at least we can maybe make a good show of it. Yeah, so I am looking forward to Mosport. It's a great track. It races so well, and it's a crown jewel of Canadian motorsport.
And we're looking forward to catching you at that one, Tim. We appreciate the time. Congratulations on the good results tonight, and we'll see you at the finale.
Thanks so much, guys.
So that is your AM category winner in the feature race tonight, as Tim Salvatore making some noise and keeping the championship interesting into these final weeks. Let's bring one more driver in. We talk to him every week. Mike Broomhead. Joey was kind of the focus of a lot of the action we were watching in that feature. He's P11 at the end of the night.
Yeah, Mike Broomhead, how's it going, man?
Oh, it's all right. It's all right.
Now, I know it wasn't necessarily the day that you wanted on the racetrack, but it seemed like you had involved yourself in a lot of activities out there. How was it?
I made quite a lot of errors, and some auto eclectic car made an error as well, I think. But yeah, it was a tough one. Had a bit of pace. We had some great battles. I made a few mistakes, hopefully off camera. But yeah, it was a tricky one. I think everybody had a good time. Racing up front, a lot of good battles. That draft was amazing, though. So I think everybody had fun, bar some incidents.
And Mike, I don't remember anything that we saw on camera, so don't worry about that. Everything looked perfect
Okay.
from our end. And
Yeah.
maybe something off of the track. I know that there's a new league that you guys are doing, an IndyCar league that's coming out. Maybe you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we would obviously jump in on the wonderful bandwagon that is IndyCar returning to iRacing. We've got our league throughout the summer. Usually we run 2 leagues, but we'll just run that one. It's bi-weekly. It's got 8 league events. So there's a full-length Indy 500 non-championship, so anybody can join into that. We have a 5K rating on the league as well. But, we're visiting some traditional tracks as well as our favorite over here in Canada. Motorsport will be on there as well. So the IndyCar going around there, it's about, a minute 3 or something. So it's an intense one. It's going to be a lot of fun. Fix setup, just, jump in and go basically. So, join the Discord. I'm sure you've seen the QR code up on the screen. Just scan that and come and join us and see what it's all about.
I got to say, the racing that BIS always puts on is amazing. I think the formats that you guys do are always top notch. So I just got to say thank you for providing not only all of these opportunities for sim racers, but just a great place to come and race.
Thanks. Yeah, like we all have fun here. Zippy and I were having a chat about the incident, and there's no arguments, there's no yelling. It's just like it's a fun thing. We like to come and blow off steam throughout the week, and it didn't go great today, obviously, but there's always next time, and I'll get him next time.
Hey, I'll keep watching for it, and we'll definitely keep an eye out. But thank you so much, Mike.
Thank you. Back.
Evan, that was Michael Broomhead, driver of the 00 tonight.
Hey, let's bring in the second half of that reference. Mentioned that he was talking down in the driver's room with Zippy, and we've got Daniel Salmon in the booth with us now. And Zip, first off, congratulations. 2 top 10 finishes in both the sprint and the feature. There was some excitement in between, but in the end, you beat most of the cars in the field in both races. That's a pretty consistent outing.
Yeah, Watkins is definitely one of my favorite tracks, and not in like the Zach Buchanan way of, oh yeah, I don't like that track, and then he cleans up there. But it's a lot of fun. Like, I realized like halfway through the first race, I'm like, oh wait a second, I'm gonna start pole. This is great. I'm happy about this, and I'm kind of like, oh, this could be a problem. And I knew that I didn't have pace, so it was a case of like I got to try and keep people behind me. Once Arnaud went, like, that's forget it, he's gone. Mike, though, I wasn't going to be quite as kind with Mike, and I locked up going in the bus stop just a smidge and killed the guy. It wasn't intentional, but I don't know if you guys saw it on stream, but I had an absolutely fantastic battle with Covey and Horvath. Like, oh, it was good. So good.
I know that Mike was telling us about how you guys were throwing fisticuffs on pit road after the race and actually telling us that it was all good and he enjoys the battles. It's funny though, because I think everybody we've talked to post-race has been kind of crushing on Watkins Glen. And I know that there are no slouches on this calendar, but why does everybody love this place so much, especially in these cars?
I'm thinking the downforce as well, because after you come through turn 1, you get such a beautiful amount of draft going up that all of a sudden, just before you head to the bus stop, even if you're like that, we had this in the battle with Horvath, Covey, and I. I'd managed to get sneak one past Covey, being the middle car to the first car, and all of a sudden Horvath is just absolutely getting like this accumulator of draft and just absolutely blasting it. And at one point we're starting to go 3 wide, and Covey's looking at this going, nope. Understandably backs out, but it's like a chicane, like a ricochet effect, and it's there's a lot of fun places to pass. I like as well, like near the end, it's the left-hander 3 corners before the end. There's that little bump, and if you over smoke it a little bit on the gas too much, the car will just over rotate. Like, it's a fantastic track, and it's smooth as well, and it doesn't feel like it's a drag race. It's just, it flows beautifully and has good passing opportunities.
Well, looking at results from this year and coming into tonight, there was one racetrack for you that stood above the rest in terms of double points, walking away with points in both the sprint and the feature, and that was the season opener at Mosport. We return there again in 2 weeks' time. Is that another racetrack that you feel like that you can kind of disturb the peace and get up there and mix it up with some of the top guys and close this season on a high note?
Oh, definitely. it's going to be one of those where, again, pace has never been my strong point. I'm a little bit slow, and then there's my driving as well. But if I can get ahead just enough, I can probably, put the cork in the bottle and maybe hold a few back, and I did that. It was did that years ago in another league. I was just speaking to Tim Salvatore about it when I first met the guy, and I was in a broadcast there, and literally I held this guy back for an hour, and he had like 2 seconds on me. So if I can do that with a 2-second gap, pace disadvantage, I'm sure I can do it in a radical.
Well, we look forward to seeing it for one final time this year, but I know you've got a hand in things as well behind the scenes. Anybody else you want to say hi to or things you want to plug?
I've definitely got. I'm going to plug BIS. Like, get into our IndyCar series. Give it a whirl. I got to be honest, where you get to see like a bit of road, bit of oval. It's a good combo. It's not exactly a slow car either. And it's going to be a fixed setup as well, so you don't have to worry about who's got the most time. You don't have to be a race engineer. That's dealt with for you. Get in the car, drive laps. If you want to adjust the car in like the in-car settings, by all means do that. But mainly just get the seat time and not worry about is it a balanced fight. Myself, I hate open setups. I don't have the time or the patience to get into all of that. But no, come and give it a whirl. And then not only that, we're going to be broadcasting it, right? So see yourself on the TV, get your family, get your friends. If you have friends, get them to watch it. The best sim racers, I don't know how popular they are, but I can sympathize,
Well, I agree with you on the terms of the fixed setups versus the open setups. Now, that's not enough confidence for me to dare go behind the wheel and publicly humiliate myself, but I will endorse your point that if you've got the confidence, jump in and join us for that. Dan, we appreciate the time. Again, congrats on a pretty good showing, and we'll catch you in 2 weeks.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you.
All right. Well, we appreciate all of our top finishers for giving us some time post-race to chat. And again, Arnaud Genet, big first win. Tim Salvatore, highest finisher in the AM category. Kind of a return to form for him. And just a little bit keeping the championship conversation open on the AM side of things.
And I think we came here to Watkins Glen. We saw 2 different races, right? And between the championships, we saw a lot of different cars up front. I think the one big one that kind of was missing from the picture all night was a number 40 car of Zach Buchanan. We're going to see if he can rebound at Mosport. Yeah, right. He was nowhere to be found in the main or in the sprint race. And so hopefully he can kind of rebound at next round. But I mean, talk about the drivers that did take advantage. Arnaud Genet, I think the biggest comeback story of the night after having things really unravel in the sprint race, was able to put it together in that full feature. So great job to him.
Yeah, he certainly took advantage of that, and we've already talked about it with the drivers, but now let's talk about it amongst ourselves. 7 weeks down, 1 to go, and it is a return to the Canadian Tire Motorsports Park at Bowmanville, Ontario, 2 weeks' time for the championship race weekend for this BiS Radical Cup Canada Series. It all ends in 2 weeks' time on March the 20th.
Going to be awesome to go see, and can't wait. Like we were hearing in the interviews, Evan, it is a track that all of these drivers extremely familiar with.
There's something about a really well-built racetrack, and then there's something about a really well-built racetrack that you identify with as your home track. And for the plethora of the Canadian drivers in the field, just means different to race at your home track and to find success in it. And I think a lot of drivers have that identifiable connection to this racetrack. So there's a reason why it's the only one that makes it onto the calendar twice. You already heard they're talking about it's going to be on the IndyCar schedule as well. So it is going to be a fun time. You're not going to want to miss that one in 2 weeks' time. Until then, though, that's going to just about do it for us here tonight from Watkins Glen. But not without one more big thank you to all of our sponsors for making tonight's coverage possible. Of course, it starts at the top with Radical Canada East. Ready to elevate your racing experience? Join the M-Zone Radical Cup Canada, where the thrill of the track meets the camaraderie of a true motorsport community. Contact Robert Burgess at robert@radicalcanada.ca to get started. As well, I want to say a big thank you to our friends at M-Zone. M-Zone Auto Care offers premium quality products for the maintenance, care, and cleaning of cars, trucks, boats, and other vehicles and equipment. Learn more at emzone.ca. as well as FEL Motorsports. FEL Motorsports has over 3 decades of experience at executing premium automotive events for top-tier manufacturers across Canada and the United States. Learn more at FELmotorsports.com. And last and not least, as this championship draws to a close, another is on the horizon, because coming this spring is the BiS IndyCar Championship. If you want to get involved, scan the QR code on the screen now, join the BiS Discord, and we'll see you on the track in the next couple of weeks. Until then, though, that is it for us here tonight for week number 7. On behalf of the entire team behind the scenes at BiS, for the team here at Podium, and for your broadcast crew tonight. For Christian Hill downstairs, for Joey Atterbury, and myself, Evan Pasoko, I want to say thanks for tuning in, and congratulations go to Arnaud Genet and Tim Salvatore, your class winners in tonight's feature. We're back in 2 weeks' time, that one on Wednesday, March the 20th, at iRacing's virtual Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. That race and every race of the BiS Radical Cup Canada Series Championship can be found exclusively here on Podium. Until next time, good night from Watkins, Glen.
Why Radical? We build race cars. We race iconic tracks. We set lap records. We build friendships. 3, 4. We create champions. We make racers.
Ever witnessed someone so fast on track you doubt you could ever be on their level? The mission of Advanced Motorsports is to demonstrate the speed is achievable for everyone. With the expertise of some of the best sim drivers in North America, we are set to release free content on social media and comprehensive guides on our website. For those seeking the ultimate experience, our Advanced Motorsport Institute and personalized coaching sessions are the way to go. No matter your level of experience, we invite you to follow us on our social media to learn to be fast.
Hey there, I'm Nicholas Dubois, co-founder of Advanced Sim Racing. We are a Canadian company. So what we did here today is for a real petrol head. He's really passionate about cars, as you can see behind me. We did a turnkey solution for him based on his needs. We try to gather as much information as we can on our client. And like we did today, we install a D-Box system. We install ultra-wide cube control steering wheel. We try to provide the best quality for your budget. So let's say if you want a budget of 10 grand, we're gonna give you something that's the best for 10 grand. If you want 20 grand, then we always try to stay within your boundaries. We do try to make it as easy as possible. So the client, once we install everything, it's pretty much gonna be a turnkey. So he's gonna press start on his computer, and right after, we'll try to explain everything, how it goes, how it works, and then he's ready to go. Our aluminum is from USA, treated in Canada, cut in Canada. So we do sand all our aluminum piece just to make sure the powder coat sticks to it. And that's one of the reasons why we use powder coat, is to make sure you have the best aluminum finish in the industry. And our quality is beyond what you can get with any other competitors right now. We are really, really passionate about all the gear, all the cockpits, all the sim hardware, and that's why we want to create something that's really going to reflect our passion into our product. Come visit us at advancedsimracing.com. You can always reach us if you have any questions. You can call us, you can text us, you can go on Facebook, like our page, ask us questions over there, and we'll make sure to answer every question there is. We are very passionate about what we do, and we try to make it as easier for you to go into the sim racing world, because there's a lot of gear, there's a lot of options, but let us guide you through your process, and let's hope you'll be an Advanced Sim Racing customer.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.